Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. So much to unpack after week two uh, in the NFL, but most notably right now, I want to talk about the chaotic situation with Bryce Young just being announced that he is demoted to second tier. Uh, NFL veteran Andy Dalton, who many known for his Cincinnati Bengal era and also Dallas Cowboy days. Um, Now takes over the helm as the lead signal caller. Uh, as you all know, Carolina gave up a king's ransom, but it's not just about the trade package in order to get Bryce Young. They moved off of prime C-Mac, Christian McCaffrey, who's now NFL Madden cover, even though he's on injured reserve this year. He was damn near an MVP candidate last year. DJ Moore, who's an All-Pro. Burns, who's playing a fantastic. Kuechly, my own running conspiracy theory is that he retired early, seeing the state of what Carolina was or is, to not even want to be a part of the sinking ship. With that being said, the trade package involved two firsts, 2 seconds, and then one of the seconds is in 2025. But the Bears ultimately benefited off of the desperation of the Carolina Panthers. They got DJ Moore, which is going to be Caleb Williams' WR1. Darnell Wright at offensive tackle. Tyreek Stevenson, who's looking like he's on pace to become an all-pro for many, many summers. He was just smacking last night on Sunday Night Football. And then Caleb Williams, who, some are saying he's looking a little shaky right now, but we all knew that the Bears had a questionable O-line, and I was listening to Colin Cowherd's show the other day. They were interviewing the former GM Joe Kleiman of the Arizona Cardinals, and they asked him, in the next 10 years, what is going to be the most difficult position to draft or find in terms of prospects? And he stated offensive tackle. And so this seems to be a growing theme amongst the league in terms of finding quality linemen. But with that being said, obviously Chicago was able to launch a full-on rebuild off of this trade package. Do I think Bryce Young was a can't-miss prospect? Absolutely not. Here's the problem with Bryce. He doesn't do anything fantastic. And normally that's fine if you're just good at a lot of things, but you can't be extremely undersized at quarterback also. Like you watch Kyler Murray, he's dynamic. He's got the cannon, he's got the vision, anticipatory skills. He's a passer, and he can be mobile. But even for oh, you're tough. Like it doesn't matter because that size in the league, your days are few and far between. Look at Tua. No matter how strong you think you are going to get clean hit. And that frame, I don't care how strong you are, is only going to fold eventually. Like in the league, there's none of that, superhero stuff. We've seen RG3's career end. We've seen Tua now on his fifth concussion. You're not going to, if you're not a big quarterback, that's why the league favors the Josh Allens, why everyone's looking for the next Cam Newton, which is the Colts believe they got that, and Anthony Richards. Because one hit in today's league, these linemen are bigger than they've ever been, well over 330, running under 4'9". You got some guys who are running faster than the wide receivers out here playing linebacker and defensive end and three-hand technique. And so watching Carolina, this level of self-destruction, knowing how wealthy David Tepper is, some are believing, myself included, and probably I'm the one spearheading this conspiracy theory. The Carolina, David Tepper wants to relocate Carolina Panthers. Last week, Pat McAfee on the show stated that the Carolina Panthers are at the point now where they're selling tickets for under $2. And so some of that is attributed to the quarterback. Some of that is attributed to the market. But Carolina is an emerging city up there with Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in terms of state-wise. Carolina is a thriving. Charlotte, those type of cities are thriving. Charlotte is one of the best cities in the world. Economy, diversity, jobs, everything. It's one of the best cities right now, and a record number of people are moving there. One of the fastest growing cities in America. So clearly, the market isn't the problem; it's the product, and the product when you got an owner who might want to relocate, which is what I suspect, because they're having a battle right now over the stadium, and Carolina tax people, the taxpayers, are saying we're not going to foot the bill for that. So you go find out how you're going to do it. Now there is this new private equity thing in the NFL where 10% of the team can be sold to people with money. They won't have any voting rights, but they can have an equity stake, which will create some liquidity for these franchises who historically only thing they could offer was ticket sales. I mean, free tickets to these people who, you're just holding up a bunch of liquid cash with no, and so it's dumb, but it's messed up right now because last season there was hints at what Bryce Young was when Gardner Minshew, who's now the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, who were perfectly fine letting Derek Carr walk, who's having a phenomenal start, similar to Baker and a couple other guys right now in the league, Sam Darnold. Gardner, the offense flashed last year, and look, Carolina put in a good faith effort to try to get Bryce some more weapons. They did get Leggett, who I think is a very solid wide receiver. He's a rookie, but he's a very solid receiver. Comes in that mold of a Terrell Owens in terms of frame. Not everyone can be that type of frame, but he's that 6'2", 6'3" physical guy who looks eventually capable of taking over as a number one. Deontay Johnson, who I'm personally a fan of from Pittsburgh, comes on over. They traded for him. They acquired him just to give Bryce Young, some weapons. And I think he's another outstanding player who's been waiting on his moment. And just unfortunately, for one reason or another in Carolina, will not be able to shine until they get a signal guy, a quarterback there. And then last but not least, Adam Thielen, who prime Adam Thielen, forget about it. He maxed out at 113 in terms of receptions in a season, which is godly numbers. And then went to Carolina in his first year, I think it was, did 103. So, and he had a meltdown this weekend. That's a consummate professional. That's a class act guy right there. And even he's like, what is this? And so they did go to Andy Dalton. I'm not a big fan of Andy Dalton. And let me be quite frank with you. Bryce Young looks like he will be back at starting quarterback. People are talking about it's the end of an era. No, this looks like last year Zach Wilson with the Jets, where he'll be taken out, redesignated as the starter again, so on and so forth. I don't think this is the last we've seen of Bryce Young, and I don't think Andy Dalton has a lot left in the tank. I think if he was somewhere like Cincinnati on a reunion type of dynamic, with playing behind Burrows, spotting him a couple games or something, because he's a former Bengal, I think he would be a little more locked in. But being in Carolina, there's no real emotional attachment. I don't think Andy has much left in the tank. In fact, Flacco to me is better than Andy. I don't know what. That's another bizarre guy who I couldn't understand. Like, what is the market with Flacco? Like, he just won 8 games and now he's back off. Now he's back into the sunset, like how the Cleveland, after that run with the Cleveland Browns, nobody has room for Flacco on a roster. It's very weird, but very bizarre. But I'm watching what's going on in Carolina, man, and I don't think this will be the end of Bryce Young. It's just they need a break. If I'm Carolina, I'm going to get my money's worth. I don't care how bad he is. We're going to continue to have him start until I plug every area of weakness, primarily offensive line, and then I'll go out and equip a new young quarterback, because they had no business in the first place. Now, next year's draft rolls around and somehow they can get Quinn Ewers in the 4th round, something like that, a steal like that, because he did get benched, and now Arch Manning is looking like he's not going to look back. They got another great matchup for a quarterback to pad the stats up and run it up statistically. I don't see a scenario where Ewers gets the job back. So, and we've seen in this last couple drafts now, we're in the territory in the NFL where even though quarterbacks are highly paid, you always got to keep drafting. A new star is born every week in this league. That's one thing that's so beautiful about the sport. So Ewers, let's say, hypothetically falls, even if he does slide, I don't think even if he does lose his job, I don't think it stops him from being a first-round quarter. If Shador's going to still be a top, Shador wins games and is hurting his stock. And I think it's already determined, since he's a Nike athlete, that he's going to go high with that endorsement deal, but he's not helping his cause. And if Shador can go first, then in the first round, top 10, then surely yours, Quinn, can go, somewhere between, 10 and 30. And if he slides for whatever reason, like we seen on Will Levis and some other guys, then guess what? Quite frankly, Quinn should have went in last year's draft, but I think it was too loaded. This year's a little more thin. He'll be able to, stand out a little bit more. But the catch-22 is we all know that Archie was waiting in the bullpen to get ready, and now he's out. Now he's loaded. You can't take that kind of name, that kind of talent, and say, "Oh, now you're going to the bench again." He'll have to really self-destruct. But you're not. You don't want it to be Carolina. Ironically enough, you don't want to be what it's going to be this year. 1 minute it's Sandy, 1 minute it's Bryce, because that's what it's looking like it's going to be, trajectory speaking. So Carolina might look for a quarterback in the offseason, but it won't be with any, not that they have any first or second anyways to go with, but it can't be, it'll have to be 6th or 7th round or something like that. With that being said, this is a catastrophic situation because they need a new stadium. If they don't get the stadium, I could see them pulling a San Diego and being moved elsewhere to a more thriving market. Sometimes you can't unsee it, even though Carolina has provided the NFL some of the most glorious talent that we've ever witnessed, whether it be Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Julius Peppers, Jake Del Holmes, Stephen Davis, Steve Smith, Chris Gamble, who was a phenomenal two-way player. What you're seeing in Travis Hunter right now, Chris Gamble once upon a time did that and did a solid job in the beginning, first couple of years. So there's nothing to scoff at, but when you see teams like St. Louis, who were the greatest show on turf, and way ahead of their time, and they won championships and got relocated. And the same thing can be said right now for the San Diego Chargers, who may have never won a Super Bowl, but always had unwavering, loyal support from their local fan base. And for them to have to be up and relocated just to make the Rams work out for stadium rights reasons and property reasons, then anything is possible and nothing's off the table. With that being said, fingers crossed. Though I hope in conclusion that Bryce Young can get his career back, and I've been very vocal, certain guys, Bailey Zapp, I think still has hope. I think that I spoke on Sam Darnold in that week 15 against the Ravens when they got completely thumped, but I said he flashed on the screen. There's hope for him. Who's the other guy that I also seen that is there was another guy who also showed promise and just, I felt like needed. I don't think that's the case with Bryce Young. I really don't think he's an NFL quarterback, and he might want to even start focusing on his career after football. I don't think it's there for him. This is not one of those kind of guys, unfortunately. I don't think this is like, he just needs to sit on someone's bench. Same thing with Baker, I was saying. He's shown promise, but that's an easy one. Even though he looked really lost in Carolina, Sam Darnold looked really lost. I think that it's just a simple fact of Bryce Young doesn't have it like that. I hope I'm wrong. Look, I don't wish on anyone's demise, but that's just the way it is sometimes in this league. A very difficult league to win in, loaded talent, very impatient. It's a what can you do for me now society. In his time, it just does not seem like he ever really was that to begin with. I'll try to do better next time, Utopians. Global out.